Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on Little Sly YouTube channel. So, in one of our previous videos on how to effectively run a load test using Neoload, we have got Amarnath Chaudhary. So, I have got a question from him, and he asked me to explain about how to do a stress test using Neoload. So, in this video, we will see how to run a stress test using Neoload. So before we move on to the video, this is me, Yavasan Shanmugam. I welcome you all to Little Slow YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you have not subscribed yet and share the video with your friends. So let me open the Neoload tool because I'm going to run a stress test using Neoload tool. So that's the reason. And the another thing is, why do we need to run a stress test? So, a stress test in performance testing is a type of evaluation which is used to determine how well a system or application performs under extreme condition or beyond its normal operational capacity. So the goal of a stress test is to identify the breaking point or the maximum load that a system can handle before it starts to degrade in performance or fail altogether. So in theory, we can see that during a stress test, the tester will simulate conditions where a large number of users or a high volume of data interact with the system concurrently, and this can involve activities such as making a large number of simultaneous requests to a web server, or performing a complex computations, or executing resource intensive operations. So now we will see how to run a stress test, and meanwhile I will explain you the key objectives of the stress test. So first, here I have a stress test user path, and under this I have a request. So I have created a google.com a get request to google.com. So this will continuously send get request to google.com, and I have added a delay of 5 seconds between each request. So this is to give a breathing space between each and every request, and I do not want to send multiple requests and get blocked. So I am giving a 5 seconds of think time between each request. And now what I am going to do is, so here I have created a population, and under the population I'm just having only my stress test with 100% of utilization with this request. So this is the only script that I'm going to run, and I'm not going to make any changes because this all depends on your project specific requirements. So I'm not making any changes to the browser or the cache or the WAN emulation because we have discussed about all these in our previous videos. In case if you have not watched it, please do check my playlist on Neoload. And now coming back to monitors and connectors, in case if you have any monitors configured, for example, if you have any APM dynatrace, or you have your Datadog connector, or in case if you want to monitor your Linux machines or your Windows machines, you can always add them. So the next part is I'm going to the runtime. So here under the runtime, I have a scenario. So this is a stress test scenario. So let me change the name. So this is a stress test scenario, and this can be any amount of users. For example, in case if you want to test your application with more than 1000 users or 10,000 users, you can very well name it here. And in case if you want to add any pre or post monitoring, you can add the time here. So you can add any amount of time, like for example a 60 seconds, which is a minute, or even 300 seconds for a 5 minute, and even you can add a post monitoring under this settings. So for now I'm just going to disable them, and in case if you want to schedule the test, you can very well set up the time here, and you can also transfer the data to the Neoload web. And in case if you want to do any URL exclusions, you can very well enable them here, and you can disable those values here. And now let's move to the next value, which is the population. So here under the populations, we all know we have got only this request, so I'm not going to make any changes, and we are going to run only this particular request. And there are different options to run these stress tests. So for example, you can even start a no limit stop manually option. Under this you can choose the custom, or in fact you can choose the ramp up, where you can set up the users. For example, I normally start the test with 50 users, and I will increment 50 users every 10 minutes. So this will keep on increasing the users, and you can even set up the maximum number of users. For example, if you want to set up like around 10,000 users, you can even set it up, and you can also see that you can reach the 10,000 users after 33 hours 10 minutes. In case if you want to really reach it out very quick, you can even reduce the time. So this will make you to reach the maximum users in 16 hours. And even if you want to really reach the users very quick, you can even increase the user load. See, for example, even to 1000. So this you can just reach it in 1 hour. So even all these settings you can customize it based on your requirement. So here I choose this option, which is the common option. So either I will choose the no limit, or I choose the time, where I give a 2 hours of time, so that even if I do not stop, this test will automatically be stopped if something goes wrong in my end. So in this scenario, what I'm going to choose is I'm going to choose a 1 hour of duration, and under the custom. So since for my license I have got only 10 users of Neoload web, so within that 10 I will show you how to run this stress test. So just imagine this is just consider one user as 100 users in your case. Okay, and I'm going to edit the graph. So here you can keep the maximum number of users to 1000, and you can set up, or just 1000, so you can set it up. So what I will do here in this case is I'm going to just keep one user as my maximum number of user, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm good to start the test. So I'm starting the test. I will show you how to do the stress test with this example. So I'm going to disable everything else, and I'm starting my test here. So in this scenario, what I normally do is I'm going to manually increase, or I'm going to manually add the user. So let's see how to add the user. So in this scenario here, by clicking the plus symbol at the end, you can get the population. So in this scenario, I'm going to add one user, and then once you come here to the runtime overview screen, you can see there is one user that has been added to the stress test. And then in this scenario, like for example, you are adding another 100 users after a few minutes or few seconds, you can very well add it and come back to the runtime overview, and here you can see the total number of users is now 2, and the response times has got increased. So here it's previously in less than 100 milliseconds, now it has reached 300 milliseconds. And same way, just go back to the runtime users, click the plus symbol again, add one more user, come back to the runtime overview, and slowly you will start to see an increase in the number of users. Here you can see we are currently experiencing 3 users in the system. There are no errors or alerts, and the response times, see, you can see here the response time starts to increase, the number of requests starts to increase, because you are injecting more and more users into your system. And now let me come back again to the runtime users, and let me add one more user. So in your case it should be 100, or in case it should be 50 users for every moment you add the users. Even you can even add 25 users every time. So here now you can see there are 4 users in the system, and slowly the number of requests and the response times will start to increase, or you can see a spike. So this is how you have to do the stress test, because as I told you, so this by doing this you can determine the system limit. So you can identify the up upper bounds of the system capacity in terms of the users, in terms of the transactions, or in terms of your data volume. And you can also evaluate the stability, so by assessing if the system can maintain stability under the specified stress conditions without crashing, hanging, or producing incorrect results. So let me just add one more user to the system, and then we will see how does it work. So I'm adding my fifth user, and here you can see every time when I add a user, they all come here in the user list. So far we have added 6 users, and let's go back to the runtime overview. And here now you can see the requests has started to increase. In fact, I would say they started to spike, because every time when you add a user, automatically it will add extra load. So during this particular test, you have to observe your CPU, you have to observe your memory, you have to observe the network bandwidth and the disk input output to identify for any potential bottlenecks, and that's very critical when you're running a test like this. And also we have to measure the response time, so that's again another important thing, because by analyzing how response times of critical functions or transactions are affected as the load increases. And also we have to find the points of failure, so by identifying the weak points or areas of the system that are prone to failure under high stress. And also we have to ensure the scalability, so by understanding how the system scales as additional resources are added to handle the increased load. So in fact I can add another 3 to 4 users. Let me add the last set of users, which is my fourth 4 users, so that here you can see I've got 10 users in the system now. And when there is a sudden spike to the system, you can see, so in this case I'm adding more users to show you how does it work, but you have to add the same set of users for every few minutes, or like for every few hours. For example, like I added like 1 user, so in that case you can add every 100 users for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And in case if you want to really feel the stress to the application, you can start adding more number of users to the system periodically, and at one point of time the system will fail for sure. And that is the point. You can understand that that's the capacity, that's the maximum capacity that the system can handle. And you can also see that whether the system is resilient, because after at some point of time the system will automatically come back, it will start to work, and that shows how your application is, how your servers are, how resilient are they. So this is how we normally run a stress test, and I believe this video will be very, very useful to you. So until I meet you in another interesting video, it's bye bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little Sla. And once more, thanks again to Amarnath Chowdhury for asking this question. Bye bye from Vasant and Little Sla.